I haven't slept properly in 3 years, and it started the night I realized the music I'd been hearing through my apartment wall wasn't coming from a neighbor. Let me explain something about Paris that the postcards don't tell you. Beneath the cafes and the Eiffel Tower and the romantic bridges, there are 6 million dead people stacked in tunnels that stretch for almost 200 miles. The Catacombs. They opened a tiny section for tourists in the 1700s, gave them candles and called it culture. But most of it has never been mapped. Most of it doesn't want to be found. I moved to Paris in 2022 for work, found a cheap apartment in the 14th arrondissement because I didn't know any better. The landlord kept saying the walls were thick, historic building, very solid. He said it 3 times during the viewing, which should have been a warning. On my 5th night there, around 2 in the morning, I heard it. Classical music. Faint, muffled, like someone playing a violin in the apartment next door with all their windows closed. I knocked on their door the next morning. An elderly woman answered, told me in broken English that she lived alone, hadn't owned an instrument in 40 years, goes to bed at 8 every night. The music came back the next night, and the night after that, always around 2 a.m., always classical, always just quiet enough that I couldn't quite make out the melody. Would you have investigated it? Because I did, and I wish to God I hadn't. I started asking around. My coworkers laughed it off, told me old Parisian buildings make weird noises, the pipes sing, the wood settles. But my downstairs neighbor, an older man named Claude who'd lived in the building since 1987, he didn't laugh. He asked me which wall the music came from. When I pointed to the eastern wall of my bedroom, his face went completely pale. He told me to move out. When I asked why, he just shook his head and said some apartments in Paris aren't built on ground. They're built on gates. And some gates shouldn't be opened but never fully close. That's when I learned about the illegal catacomb explorers. They call themselves Cataphiles. They sneak into the restricted sections through secret entrances all over the city, through basements and manholes and forgotten metro tunnels. The police can't stop them because they don't know where half the entrances are. There are parties down there, whole underground rooms furnished with stolen chairs and tables, art galleries carved into the limestone. And apparently, according to what I found on a forum I probably shouldn't have been reading, there are musicians too. People who go down there to play in the acoustics of the dead. The forum had a thread from 2019. A cellist claimed she'd been exploring near the Denfert Rochereau entrance when she heard someone playing violin in a side tunnel. She followed the sound for almost 20 minutes, deeper than she'd ever gone, until she found a chamber she swore wasn't on any map. The music was coming from inside, but when she entered, the chamber was empty, just bones arranged in patterns on the walls, and in the center of the room, a single candle burning, still lit, still warm. She ran, posted on the forum that night saying she'd never go back down. No one ever heard from her again. Her account went dark 3 days after that post. Tell me in the comments what you think happened to her, because what I'm about to tell you makes me think she got out just in time. I became obsessed, started researching the history. The catacombs were created in the late 1700s because Paris was literally overflowing with corpses. The cemeteries were so full that bodies were bursting through the walls, contaminating the water supply, creating a health crisis. So they dug into the old limestone quarries beneath the city and moved 6 million skeletons down there in the middle of the night over the course of years. Just bones and bones and bones, stacked in patterns, arranged in walls, packed into every tunnel they could find. The workers who did it, the ones who spent months underground in the dark with nothing but torches and the dead, a lot of them never came back up the same. Some didn't come back up at all. There are stories from that time, parish records that mention workers who went missing, their families reporting that they'd heard them at night, scratching at the walls, singing songs they used to know. The church tried to bless the catacombs in 1786, brought in priests to consecrate the tunnels, turn them into something holy instead of something cursed. But 3 of the priests refused to go back down after the first day. One of them wrote in his journal, and this is a direct account that still exists in the Paris archives, that the bones were watching him. Not metaphorically. He said he could feel eyes on him everywhere he walked, even though there were no bodies, just skulls.
And when he finally turned around to look, one of the skulls on the wall had turned too, facing him when it had been facing away a moment before. The music in my apartment got louder. Started happening during the day sometimes. I'd be making coffee and hear it drifting through the wall, so clear I could almost recognize the piece. Almost. And then one afternoon, I came home from work and found my bedroom door open. I always close it. Always. But it was open, and the music was playing. And it was coming from inside my room now, not through the wall, from inside my closet. I stood in my doorway for 10 minutes before I could move, because there was something else. Under the music, beneath it, woven into it. Voices. Humming. Not words. Just this low collective hum, like a crowd of people all humming the same melody half a beat off from each other, creating this dissonant harmony that made my teeth ache. I opened the closet. Found nothing but my clothes. But the sound was louder there, stronger, and when I knelt down and pressed my ear to the back wall, I could hear it clearly. Music and humming and something else. Footsteps, lots of them, walking in rhythm somewhere far below me. Claude finally told me the truth the next day. Said back in the 90s, the building owner had bricked up a door in the basement, an old entrance to a quarry tunnel that connected to the catacombs. They'd found it during renovations. This little stone archway that led down into the dark, and they sealed it because people kept breaking in to explore. But before they sealed it, 3 students from the Sorbonne went down there on a dare. Only 2 came back. They told the police their friend had wandered off chasing music, said he kept insisting someone was calling his name, playing his favorite song. They searched for weeks. Never found a body. Never found any evidence he'd been down there at all except for one thing. 6 months later, residents in the building started reporting they could hear someone practicing violin at night. The same pieces, over and over like someone learning to play. The missing student had been a violinist. Would you have left then? Because I tried. I really did. Gave my notice, started packing. But the last night I was there, the music stopped. Completely. Total silence for the first time in 3 months. And somehow that was worse. Because at 3 a.m., I woke up to knocking. Rhythmic, deliberate knocking coming from inside my bedroom wall. Knock, 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 pause, knock, 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 pause. I turned on every light. Didn't matter. The knocking continued. And then just once, clear as anything, I heard my name whispered from somewhere behind the plaster. My full name. Pronounced correctly, even though it's unusual, even though I'd never said it out loud in that apartment. I left that night, stayed in a hotel, broke my lease. But here's what I can't escape and what keeps me awake. I've lived in 4 different apartments since then. Different neighborhoods, different arrondissements. Even tried moving to Lyon for 6 months. Doesn't matter. Every place I go, after about 2 weeks, the music starts again. Faint at first, always around 2 a.m., always classical, always just quiet enough that I can't quite make out the melody, and it's getting clearer. Last week I finally recognized the piece. It's Vivaldi, Winter, from the 4 Seasons. I looked it up. That was the piece the missing student was learning when he disappeared. The piece he never got to finish. I called Claude last month, asked him if anyone else had reported the music since I left. He said yes. The new tenant. A student from Germany. She'd asked about it once, seemed concerned, then stopped asking. When I asked if she was still living there, Claude went quiet for a long time before he said she moved out after 3 months. No forwarding address. Left half her belongings behind. He went into the apartment to clear it out and found something she'd written on the bedroom wall in pencil. Tiny letters you'd only see if you were looking. It said in German, "They want me to come down. They're teaching me the way. Because if you believe this part, wait until you hear what comes next." There's a map. A real one. Drawn by the quarry workers in 1789 before they sealed off the deepest sections. The parts they said were too dangerous, too unstable. But that's not why they sealed them. I found a reference to it in an archive, a single line in a maintenance report that said the workers refused to go back down because the tunnels in Sector 7 weren't empty anymore. That something had started arranging the bones into shapes that looked like words, like messages, and the messages were different every time they went down. fresh, recent, impossible. That map still exists. I've seen photographs of it online, posted by Cataphiles who claim they've been to Sector 7, and every single one of them says the same thing. The music down there never stops.
It echoes through chambers that aren't on any modern map. Chambers the size of cathedrals filled with bones arranged in perfect spirals, and at the center of the largest spiral, there's always a single candle burning. No one lights it, no one can explain it. But it's always there, always lit, always warm. I think I know where my wall leads now. I think I know what that bricked-up door in the basement was really keeping out. And I think the missing student isn't missing anymore. I think he's down there, in Sector 7, playing his violin in the dark, perfecting the piece he never finished. And I think everyone who hears the music is being invited to join him, to finish what they started, to practice forever in the acoustics of 6 million dead. The knocking in my current apartment started again last night, but this time it wasn't coming from the wall, it was coming from under my bed. And when I finally looked, when I finally got down on my hands and knees and looked into that dark space, I saw it. A gap in the floorboards I swear wasn't there before, just wide enough to see down into some kind of tunnel below. And rising up through that gap, so faint I almost convinced myself I imagined it, was candlelight. Flickering, warm, and the smell of old stone and older bones. I'm moving again next week, but I don't think it matters anymore. I think wherever I go, that gap will follow, that light will find me. And eventually, probably soon, I'm going to hear my favorite song playing down there in the dark, and I won't be able to stop myself from finding out where it leads. If this story is keeping you awake tonight, you need to hear what happened to the last person who found the candle room, because they came back up, once. Subscribe now if you want to know what they brought back with them, and why every museum in Paris refuses to display it. What comes next isn't legend, it's documentation, and it's so much worse than music.